Now, I'm going to cover that, but I'm just going to stop right here, and I'm going to tell everybody something that we're working on right now that is so big that I don't even feel worthy as a news organization, myself individually. I don't feel like, it's just bizarre. Like, why me? Why do we always get the information? Why are we given such dangerous information? Why don't other people get what's going on? And when I say I don't feel up to it, I don't know how to announce the information I have on air. I'm going to try to think about it during the break, and I have a tendency when I've got things this horrible, but this important to report, to not cover it. You notice I just went into the shooting up in Ottawa because psychologically, even though it's a tragedy, it's more comforting to me because it's something I know. I mean, it's terrible. It's the opposite of comforting, but compared to the news I have, it is comforting. We're going to try to cover it when we come back. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, we're going to have a medical doctor on who wants to use his name and who he's given us his credentials, who says that there are cases of Ebola in major hospitals and that they're told to basically cover it up and say that it was malaria out of Africa and that the feds come and swoop the bodies or the patients away. Now, remember, the head of the Border Patrol Union said 2 months ago and last week on this show, we're going to get him back on, by the way, if we can, today or tomorrow, that indeed the CDC is on the border and is picking up people that have Ebola-like symptoms. Now, the reason this is of such concern is that for a week, we've been in contact with a doctor who is the head of a major Texas hospital. This is a doctor I've known personally for about a year, a doctor I've had dinner with multiple times, a doctor I've gone out with friends to the Broken Spoke. It's not a medical doctor that runs a hospital in Austin. It's another major Texas city, and he doesn't even want the city named, but you can probably guess. He told us a week ago, confirmed exactly what this other doctor who's coming on record is going to tell you. Now, since we began to learn about this, we began reaching out to other medical doctors at hospitals, and they get very upset and say, I'm not supposed to talk to you about this, but yes, this is going on. Ladies and gentlemen, Ebola is probably spreading inside the United States right now. My gut level look at this, why are they saying the family doesn't have it? Why did none of the neighbors get it, none of the kids that were around his kids, but 2 nurses? The nurses have unions. The nurses are going to speak up for themselves. The nurses have already been protesting. The cleanup crews on the airplanes 3 weeks ago in New York and other areas began going on strike, saying, I'm not going to clean up vomit on these African flights. They're coming in out of countries with Ebola. We know they're covering up the numbers of Ebola deaths in Africa. That's even in Associated Press. They're set to have over 1 million people get Ebola. The only place they can run is to the U.S. Everybody else shut the flights down months ago. It's a no-brainer that they're covering up Ebola. Now, it's a no-brainer, and I've said in my gut, I believe that's going on. Because my intellectual research shows that they're covering it up. All the evidence points there. They're trying to spread it. But also my gut and everybody else's gut that I talk to is on fire right now. And then I talk to a major doctor who, quite frankly, runs more than one hospital. I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, a major medical center, medical doctor, director. And he says, I will lose my license. They will come after me. We've been told do not talk about it. But yes, it's true. And don't you say who I am. So we sit on this for a week. Anthony Gucciardi comes on yesterday, and I don't know what my problem is. That's why I say, why me? I don't even feel like I'm up to be able to cover things this big, quite frankly. And he mentions we know medical doctors that say it's spreading, so a medical doctor calls in. We get his number, get his info, call, check on the hospital site. It's him. And he says, yeah, they're threatening people. He's coming on in 15 minutes. He goes, I don't care. This is too important. Hippocratic oath, do no harm. This is sensational. This is the stuff talk radio's made of. And I hate it. I absolutely hate breaking this to you. This government is so evil. I mean, I have 3 children. I have a family I love. And to know that this is probably confirming what we can already see the evidence of, 95% chance Ebola spreading, and they're covering it up. I just can't believe it. What an evil government. Because here's the deal. They're not just covering it up to stop panic. They're covering up things that would have stopped it spreading. They want this on purpose. And I'm just coming myself face to face with the fact that I've been right. We are in this much trouble. This just validates everything. And I'm not happy to be validated, to be vindicated. Because every instinct I've got is you've done your job. You fought hard enough, buddy. You've spent 20 years battling this. You are a major target. Get out of here or shut up and shut it down. Because most other people are cowards. There aren't a lot of other outlets that will cover things like this. And so you better believe I'm a major target. But I'm not going to shut it down, and I'm not going to shut up because, sure, I could run from this for a while. We all collectively got in this position by running from tyranny and by trying to appease it and by not going up against it. And it's like being beat up once a week by a bully at school. You finally decide to fight back. And even if you lose the fight, they'll move on to somebody weaker because you fought back and bloodied their nose as well. And politically, not physically, it's time to start bloodying the establishment's nose. And that's what it's going to do when doctors and nurses don't shut up and go public with what the head of the retired Border Patrol Union has said, what Border Patrol active duty officers have told us, point blank, here in Austin and in Las Vegas at a medical conference Dr. Group was attending. That, yes, they're whisking people away and disappearing them. Now, if they were doing that to stop panic, it would still be illegal and dangerous. But you could argue don't want to create a panic. Not when they're letting the flights still in and clearly letting it spread. So, see, they want the tyranny to whisk away whoever they want and create that precedent with secret medical armies backed up by paramilitary. They want to introduce the idea of this going on while letting the crisis intensify. Former top Border Patrol agent, CDC disappearing potential Ebola victims. That's from October 10th, 2014, 13 days ago. And I'll continue reading from the article. Former Border Patrol agent Zach Taylor has divulged that the CDC is working with Border Patrol authorities and the Department of Homeland Security to disappear potential Ebola victims attempting to cross the border into the United States. I want Don Salazar and Kurt Nimmo and Kit Daniels and Paul Watson and Steve Watson and Mikhail Phelan to all write about this from your own angle. With Zach Taylor and these medical doctors, whatever angle you want to go with, but showing the history of them aiding and abetting the Ebola virus to try to raise the alarm. And Watson's usually listening, but he's over in England. He went back to London. He visited with us for 3 weeks. He's thinking about coming here part-time in the years to, work over here with us. Call Watson, have him call Steve. And they need to tune into what you're about to hear. Oh, man. See, when I'm up here talking about genderless gingerbread figurines and the mayor wanting to arrest, because that's what the subpoenas were, was for a criminal investigation of preachers that speak out against homosexuality. What are we doing with stores saying we're only going to have genderless gingerbread people to not offend folks, and they want to arrest preachers for reading out of the Bible, and you got all these mystery illnesses flooding across the border, and you've got people still rioting in St. Louis and Ferguson, and Africa has clearly been hit by some type of bioweapon, souped up Ebola. We had Francis Boyle that wrote the U.S. Biological Weapons Treaty that got adopted worldwide, biological weapons expert. Dr. Francis Boyle is also a lawyer. And he says it's a government operation. Wayne Madsen, formerly the NSA, says it's a government operation, names names. The African scientists are saying that. We have BBC pieces, video pieces from the 90s admitting the South African government created weaponized airborne Ebola and stuff to sterilize blacks. I mean, I wish all this intel wasn't just rolling in. You think we like breaking 1 week after Benghazi that it was a hit of the ambassador because he didn't want to transfer Stinger missiles to al-Qaeda? And that we predicted they would then say, prepare for the Stinger attacks in the West, which they're now doing, but never pointing out that our government armed them? Do you think it's fun? I just want you to know, for people that are new listeners and go, oh, this is off the chart crazy, this stuff's too intense. I'm sorry, that's what's really going on. I don't want this to be this way either, okay? But what does this tell us about our government? Major medical doctors have told us off record, people I know good, that Ebola is spreading in the U.S. in major hospitals all over the place. And they're whisking the people away and they don't know where. And they're telling them shut up and say that it's some type of African fever or jungle fever or that it's some type of malaria, when it's not. Malaria doesn't cause big bloody pustules all over you. We're going to go to break. I'm going to try to get my mind focused and say a little prayer for my family, everybody else, because we're all in this together. And this is how they're bringing in the world government. It's stage crisis. It's what the North American Union documents show from 2007, Banff, Canada. We'll be right back.